Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here. And the post-nuclear US of A Fallout 4 sends us to is a fascinating place. New societies, new creatures, and new challenges, all born out of the fires of the Great War, await you as you emerge from Vault 111 on that fateful day. Fascinatingly though, this unrecognizable world is also one that holds within it a variety of unexplained occurrences and big questions that, even 3 years after Fallout 4's initial release, remain unanswered. So, what better way to spend the day than allowing our curiosity to guide us? Sit back and relax as we explore 5 more unsolved mysteries in Fallout 4. Starting off, we have whoever was and whatever happened to S943. In Fallout 4, many Institute synths have grown cognizant of their effective imprisonment at the hands of their creators, and decided to attempt to escape. Well, either that or they have a bug that causes them to flee, depending on who you ask and how you feel about free will. No matter, it's proven quite the problem for the Institute. To overcome this obstacle, they created an entire sub-organization known as the Synth Retention Bureau, or SRB, whose sole duty is to track down escaped synths and bring them back into custody. They call this process reclamation. Well, within the SRB's offices in the Institute's complex, we can find a terminal that lists the unit IDs of many of the runaway synths the SRB is currently pursuing or recently dealt with. Most of the synths here, the Institute is currently dealing with. Either they've already identified them or are otherwise at very least trying to. But one android, with the unit ID S943, stands out. This specific synth, the Institute has for now given up on trying to catch. They've, quote, suspended the investigation, as the area it was last spotted nearby, the Boston airport, has been deemed too hazardous. Now, this is especially odd, as S943 is the only listed synth on this terminal that the SRB has just decided not to pursue due to potential danger. Which is really weird, because it clearly takes a lot to scare away the Institute. On the same terminal, we see plans to send coursers, basically overpowered synths, to reclaim an android that literally has become the leader of a raider gang. So clearly the Boston airport must present a major threat. If we go there ourselves, early in game the location will be inhabited by little more than some feral ghouls. Hardly a challenge for arguably the most advanced faction in the Commonwealth. But very quickly, as the storyline progresses, the Brotherhood of Steel will move in and park their Pridwin just above the place, making the location their effective new headquarters. Perhaps that's what scared the Institute off. If this is what we choose to believe, then it's easy to assume that, oh, an escaped synth near the Brotherhood of Steel's HQ? Clearly this must be Paladin Dance, the knight who we later discover is just that, an escaped synth. But it's not him, as we know his own synth unit ID was M797, not S943. So, if not Dance, then who could this be? Well, we haven't the faintest clue. But this whole mystery is made even much more intriguing when you consider that the only other synth in the game with the prefix S9 is that childhood synth father made of himself, or Sean, who's identified as S923. Therefore, it's very probable that this mysterious escaped synth could indeed be a child model, if not another replication of childhood Sean. And not the Institute, and clearly not even the Brotherhood of Steel, know where he's hiding. Next on our list, the Children of Adam are a massive, sometimes hostile cult of people who have taken to accepting the power of radiation and nuclear might as products of their one true god, who they call Adam. For the most part, it's easy to just write these people off as misguided or a bit crazy. But there is something about these zealots that's difficult to explain if they're not onto something. You see, the Children of Adam, or at least a lot of them, seem to be completely immune to the effects of otherwise lethal levels of radiation. In the Glowing Sea, an area of the map overwhelmed with radiation levels that would normally kill anyone not in the proper suit in mere minutes, the Children of Adam somehow have managed to establish a thriving colony. And the people who live there not only seem just fine despite the rads everywhere, but don't even bother to wear the slightest bit of protective gear. They're literally in rags. Mind you, this colony is centered around Ground Zero for one of the bombs that fell. And this area has even more radiation than the rest of the Glowing Sea. So the colony's survival just makes no sense. And it's not just in the Glowing Sea. Nearby Kingsport Lighthouse, there's another irradiated crater that the cultists have made theirs. Over in Far Harbor, their base of operations is a highly radioactive former nuclear submarine base. So how is it these people are able to survive what should be death sentences? Or at the very least, turn them into ghouls? Do they all perhaps have a lucky genetic adaptation? Maybe there's a secret supply of Radaway they're all hyped up on 24/7. Or maybe they're not wrong about Adam after all. Coming in at number 3, this one is less of a mystery strictly related to Fallout 4, or even the Commonwealth itself. Instead, this one pertains to a certain historical event that allegedly took place before the bombs fell. And that mystery is, what was the Sea of Tranquility conflict? Or more specifically, what was it fought over, who were the belligerents, and who won? Let me explain. Within the Museum of Freedom in Fallout 4, we can find all sorts of displays and scenes related to the United States military and its history. We see great mannequin recreations of the Revolutionary War, massive posters of World War II, and paintings of America's war on the moon. Wait, what? That's right. All throughout this museum, we can find a replicated image of American astronauts, soldiers in power armor, and some air, or spacecraft flying above them on the moon. In front of a mural that features such an image, alongside previously mentioned Revolutionary War and World War II depictions, is a plaque that reads the following. Quote, "From Lexington to Concord, to the shores of Iwo Jima, from the Sea of Tranquility to the Anchorage front line, Americans have fought and died through the ages to secure our nation's freedom. May their sacrifices remind us all that freedom is a privilege afforded to the many, yet hard won by a noble few." End quote. This plaque appears to be suggesting that space battle painting depicts something called the Sea of Tranquility, as it's definitely not Iwo Jima or Anchorage. Alas, we literally don't know anything else about this supposed space conflict. Nowhere else in Fallout lore is a battle on the moon, nor the Sea of Tranquility so much as just mentioned. It can be inferred, judging by how the plaque orders and lists these conflicts, that this space war occurred before America's recapture of Alaska from the Chinese, but long after World War II. The tech we see in this picture is also pretty advanced, so the battle/war/skirmish thing could have occurred quite recently. But again, what was it fought over? Who are the belligerents? I mean, obviously the US was involved, but who are they fighting? The Chinese again? And why? Presumably to fight a war on the moon, there was some sort of settlement or military base there. Could human life still remain? No matter, only Bethesda knows the answers to these questions, and they're not going to be giving them away so easily. For fourth spot, likely the most well-known, if that makes any sense, mystery in today's video, is what exactly is Lorenzo Cabot's crown? What's it made of, who made it, and why? Lorenzo Cabot, of course, is an elderly man currently being incarcerated within Parsons State Insane Asylum. But he's a lot older than he looks. And he looks old. Lorenzo was born not 50 or 60 years ago, but 452, in the year 1835. He was an archaeologist who at some point in the 19th century led an expedition to Arabia in search of a long-lost ancient city. He eventually found it, and within the ruins happened upon a strange, almost alien-like crown. Lorenzo then did what any reasonable person would do, and decided to just put it on. As you may imagine, that probably wasn't the best idea. Over the next few years, keep in mind during this time he was still in Arabia, it was a long expedition, he began to develop what can only be described as superpowers, such as telekinesis, extreme intelligence, and immortality. But these new abilities came at a cost. Lorenzo also quickly started losing his very sanity. Eventually, when he finally returned home, his family was introduced to a man they no longer recognized. Fearing for their own safety, and a little bit of his, they had him committed to Parsons State Insane Asylum. His son Jack then proceeded to dedicate his life to studying what had happened to his father, and soon discovered that by messing with Lorenzo's blood, a sort of serum could be created that allowed others to become immortal as well. Jack promptly took the serum, as did everyone else in his immediate family, and thus the Cabot family would survive the next 400 years without an issue. This whole affair is of course the subject of its own quest, the secret of the Cabot House, and ultimately the sole survivor can decide to help free Lorenzo Cabot from his confines and exact revenge on his family, or side with Jack and finally put an end to the crown-wearing old man. But never in that quest, or any point in the game, are the true origins of Lorenzo's crown revealed. Lorenzo himself admits that the nature of it is something he's unsure of. He doesn't know who made the crown or why they did. He thinks it maybe could be of alien design, but again, he admits he doesn't know. If not aliens, could it be a product of that very long-lost civilization? And if so, was this the only crown they made, or were there more scattered across the world? All of this is unknown. And what with humanity recently destroying itself, it's unlikely we'll find answers anytime soon. And finally, last on our list, the Microfiche packing plant, despite appearing to be a normal place, at least by Fallout standards, is in fact among the most mysterious buildings you'll ever find yourself in. It's located on the northeastern edge of our map, and it's a former fish packing plant, as its name implies, where factory workers once packaged seafood. When you first arrive on the scene, something that should immediately catch your eye is that all around the area are corpses of raiders. Inside, outside, bodies are all over the place. Some very powerful people must have had a reason to come here before you did, but for now they seem to be gone. And initially, minus the dead raiders, Makro will appear empty. Some terminals within the structure will paint a picture of the state of the place just as the bombs started to fall. Evidently, the area was out of the immediate blast zone, so no one was killed by the initial explosions. However, for some reason, just as the Great War was kicking off, the plant was placed on lockdown, and no employees were allowed to leave the building. In their terminals, it's made obvious that the workers didn't seem to have a clue what was going on as the world destroyed itself. Not being allowed to leave, they describe hearing strange rumbling noises and losing radio signals, but were unsure of what was really going on. Judging by all the skeletons, it can be presumed that the employees either died due to a lack of proper food and hydration, or overexposure to radiation later on. This brings us to our second mystery. Why weren't the plant's workers allowed to leave? I doubt it was for their own safety, and if it was, it clearly didn't work out very well. Pushing onward, as the player descends deeper and deeper into the factory's basement, it'll become clear that you're not alone. Institute synths are also here too, and they'll be very unfriendly. Unless, that is, you're allied to the Institute yourself. In which case, their presence can be a welcome surprise. Regardless, there's no real final boss or reward at the end of the dungeon. After you've explored everything, you just sort of have to head back up and leave. Though upon your exit, even more synths will be waiting outside to ambush the player. They just spawned in. The Institute was obviously very interested in this location. Now, the answer why is one we might know, however. As just outside, a rail sign can be found painted over a truck. The specific rail sign implies a railroad cache of supplies is nearby. And sure enough, inside the truck, some sleeping bags and supplies can be found. So it's possible the railroad had been using this area as a resting point for some time, and the Institute caught on, planning to ambush the next poor batch of fellows that came too close. So there, mystery solved, right? At least one of them. But wait, if the railroad was here before, what were they doing so close to the raiders? Were they here at the same time? Maybe they had an awkward agreement not to hurt each other. Well, here's where stuff gets really weird. You know all those dead raiders I mentioned earlier, who must have been killed either by the railroad or by the synths? Well, they all have the exact same physical appearances. Their bodies, hair, face, eye color, they're all 100% identical. Almost like they're clones of each other. Inspecting their inventories won't display a synth component, so these were real people at some point. These duplicated raiders add a whole nother layer of weirdness to this place. I'm not entirely convinced I want to totally discount the possibility of this being a glitch or error on Bethesda's part. Maybe they just messed up in the way they spawned these bodies in or something like that, but this would be a first time I saw a glitch of that nature. Even then, we have employees who are locked inside their place of work when the bomb started to fall, some raiders and railroad operatives that may have been living side by side in harmony, or at least without conflict, and some Institute synths that somehow caught on and planned to disrupt it all. If the raiders aren't clones of each other, this place is still really weird. The full story here, though, is likely one we'll never know, but Microfiche Packing Plant is a name I don't think I'll forget anytime soon. And with that, we are going to wrap up 5 more unsolved mysteries in Fallout 4. Which of the ones explored today did you find to be the strangest or most upsetting? And what are your own proposed theories and explanations behind some of what we saw? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. Thanks for watching, and hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.